Stop. So, something that I've had not a particularly hard time wrapping my mind around it, but there's so much conflicting information that it's hard to get a definitive definition for the difference between emotions, feelings, mood, and affect. After doing some research, I think I am beginning to kind of get a grasp on it. So, I think a lot of people are guilty of this. I personally am as well. Kind of conflating the experience of emotions with feelings. And so, across the board, when I talk about schizoid personality disorder, first off, I don't really see schizoid personality disorder as a disorder. More, so, like, to me, it's more like a personality type that comes along with a particular lifestyle, a particular attachment style, and I don't know, a way of seeing the world, a way of experiencing the world that is, I mean, it is different from the status quo, but it's not entirely dysfunctional to me, or even remotely dysfunctional. I don't know, it doesn't impair my life in any lasting ways, or really at all, like some of my other neuroses have. And I don't know, I don't see, well, first off, you can't cure someone's personality, so there's that. And then also, I don't see the need for treating someone who is content in their suffering. I don't see why you would need to treat someone who is entirely self-aware, isn't actually suffering, and can't really be cured. I don't see why. I don't know, like, I don't hurt the people around me, really, and I'm not hurting myself, I'm not a danger to myself. I don't know, why the fuck would I need to be diagnosed with a disorder when I just experience life differently? Anyway, let me go on to talking about emotions and feelings and all that shit. When I talked about schizoid in past videos, I would say that it was I don't know, like, people who are schizoid, they lack the ability to experience emotions. And I mean, in a way that's kinda not really though. So upon finding other definitions of emotions and feelings and mood, I'm beginning to understand a little bit better how things work in my head personally. So first off, emotions are they're a physical response to a stimuli. So some people might feel emotions like in their head, like their face might get warmer or something like that. Some people feel it in their stomach, some people feel it in their arms, some people feel it in the back of their head, their legs, whatever. People feel different things in different areas, but it's more the immediate, very, very temporary response to a stimuli. And so if someone comes out of nowhere and startles you, that temporary feeling of being startled, that's an emotion. That is a, like, it's almost like physiological and mental at the same time. Feelings are kind of the byproduct, maybe, of emotions. So when you experience an emotion, when someone has done you wrong and you're like mad, that temporary anger that you feel, the feelings that come along with that, or the thoughts that come along with that, those are your feelings. So you might think about some other time where someone made you mad, and that compounds your anger. You might, I don't know, it's more based on past experiences and how those experiences kind of shaped you and your thoughts about experiencing that emotion. And so it's very, very different from person to person, the way that you experience feelings after, you know, experiencing an emotion. I think for people who have schizoid personality disorder, it's different and interesting because there's a disconnect in emotions. There's a disconnect between the person and their experience of the emotion. And so, like me personally, I had a time, I think it was last year, I think it was last year, where I experienced happiness, and it was so fucking weird and so fucking uncomfortable. Like, it was strange, and I felt it in my stomach. Like, it felt like butterflies, and like I needed to take a shit. That's literally what it felt like. And so it's difficult to decipher for schizoids when there is an emotion going on, and then because it's difficult to decipher, you know, emotions in general, feelings don't really come into play all that much. And so because you don't have a particular like marker for this emotion, you don't necessarily have feelings that are associated with that emotion. And so you don't go through, you know, the cascade of different thoughts, different sensations that come along with the emotion. And so it doesn't really affect you as deeply as it would another person. And now that I think about it, it's almost like having an emotional memory, where you have an emotion that you experience, and the feelings are kind of the memories, the series of sensations, the series of thoughts that you have that go along with that emotion that you've had in the past. And because we don't really, as schizoids, maybe we don't bank as many of those emotional memories, we don't experience feelings as readily as someone who isn't schizoid would. At least that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking is the case. That there is a disconnect between the person and the emotion that they're experiencing, and also a disconnect between the cascade, for the cascade from emotions to feelings to maybe even a change in mood, and then a change in affect as well. Something else that I thought about when people talk about their feelings being hurt, it's not really, you know, emotional. It's more a mental, you know, state, where it's not necessarily that. I mean, you can't hurt someone's emotions. Emotions they don't work that way. But you can offend someone's sensibilities, and I think that's really what people are talking about when they talk about you hurt my feelings or my feelings are hurt. And so a person with schizoid doesn't really have a whole lot of feelings towards a whole lot of anything. And so your sensibilities aren't, I don't know, they're not completely intact maybe, or maybe they're just really like transparent, or they're flimsy. I think a lot of people that are schizoid, they're amoral, and so they don't really have, I mean, not immoral, like, you know, wanting to hurt people, but they don't really have any hard feelings towards any particular social phenomena. I think in my head, like, I think about it as, what is the way that I can be most comfortable? How can I live my life the most comfortably? Well, being treated like a human being, cool. All right, having my rights protected, having my rights, you know, actually like thought about by the establishment, by other people, cool. So when people are following laws, that's why I follow laws, is because I want other people to follow laws, and I don't know, to find some kind of harmony in the world. And so that's really my thought, is almost this self-interest. It's not really the reason why I follow rules or laws or do things for, I don't know, the betterment of society, is more because I want to live comfortably within my society. It's out of self-interest purely, and I don't know if that makes me sound like a bad person or not, but that's the reason I do it. And so let me go on. So for me personally, when I was very young, I was not very young, young enough, 14, I think, either 13 or 14, I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. And so what that is a mood disorder. And so people, when I talk about being schizoid and talk about having bipolar disorder, people are like, that's impossible, that's not possible, you can't fucking do that. No, because, you know, your mood changing, that means you have emotions. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, because I'm a person, I do experience emotions. I do, like, they do happen in me, and it's just difficult for me to connect to them. And sometimes, I mean, most of the time I know when I'm feeling an emotion. Most of the time I know. A lot of my emotional experiences are really, really muted, almost to the point where, like, they don't really, you know, tick on the radar unless it's something that's really out of the ordinary or something that's kind of intense. So like that one time where I experienced the happiness, that was so strange. That was really strange because not only was it was pretty intense, but it was also just out of the ordinary for me, especially in my school experience. And so, I am rambling. I'm going fucking everywhere with this shit. But bipolar is a mood disorder, and so it affects your emotional state. A mood is an emotional state. It is a state of being. So compared to an emotion, a mood is an ambiguous form almost of an emotion. It lasts for, you know, hours or days or weeks, while an emotion is, you know, maybe a few seconds, maybe a minute at the most. And so emotions are more temporary. They can be more intense. And I don't know, they're like, a mood is kind of like the undercurrent of your experience as a person. It can be affected by stimuli like an emotion can, but not as readily. So your mood might be affected by your hunger. You haven't eaten in a really long time and you're really hungry. You might be in a shitty mood because of that. Or you haven't gotten sleep. You might not be in a good mood because you haven't gotten sleep for days at a time. And so it's more based on how you feel, like physiologically, how you are. And so in bipolar, your mood is definitely affected by your physiological state, but it's also affected by your brain chemistry. And so for me, I just have a lot of fucking serotonin that's just circulating around in my brain, and it fucks up my mood. I'm never really in a state of mania, like with bipolar 1. In bipolar 2, it's hypomania, and so it's the state of just massive irritation and just agitation. And I go between being very, very depressed, and depression isn't sadness. It's not the same as being sad. The mood of depression is, I can't even fucking describe it, really. And while I was in school, my mood was very deeply affected by my schedule and the amounts of stress that I was under. I'm just not a school person. I mean, I'm good at school, but I don't fucking like it. I really, really, really dislike going to school. But I was in a constant state of not having enough food. I was a constant state of being tired all the fucking time, and then I was stressed. The stress is really what is the clincher. Having assignments, having projects, having things due, having constant change, having things just flying at you at all times, I don't like that. I like having like a schedule, a routine that I can stick to, that I can rely on. I like consistency, and school is about inconsistency. That is literally what school is. It's like pulling you in directions that are uncomfortable to get you to be comfortable in those spaces. And I don't like it. Don't like it. So all of these things, how do they come together? All right. So first off, you have emotions. It's physiological response. I mean, pretty much everyone experiences them, whether or not they are muted or really intense. It doesn't, I mean, everyone experiences them. And then you have feelings, which are your thoughts, I don't know, the byproduct of your emotions. And then your feelings can affect your mood, the state that you are in, as far as, I don't know, like your temperament. Then all those things can also affect your affect, and that is how you present your feelings, how you present your emotions, how everything culminates and is projected off of you. And so for me personally, I can actually give an example. So when I make these videos, I try to be, entertaining, and so that entails kind of manufacturing some things and exaggerating some things. But when I did my video about popping my tires 2 days in a row, like, I talked about being annoyed, and it seemed like I was really frustrated, and I did have the initial frustration of, oh shit, my tires popped, okay, what do I need to do? But that lasted for all of like 30 seconds. After that, I didn't really have any thoughts about it. I didn't have any feelings about it. It didn't make me feel any type of way, because I just didn't care. I went on and had like a really good day after that. I don't know, like, being out of school just makes me way more content in my life. And I was thinking that, I was just a person that was stressed all the time, and I'm not. I'm not stressed all the time. School makes me stressed all the time. And, something as crazy as having a flat tire 2 days in a row, I know would ruin someone's day. They would just be so fucking frustrated all fucking day. And so, like, for me, it was the initial, oh shit, what do I do? And then once I figured that out, I was so fucking golden after that. And so that's really, the affect thing, where like I went into the Hertz rental center, and I was, okay, like I just put on like super happy face, even though, I'm not really feeling anything. That's your affect. That's what you present to the world. And in all of this, I'm trying to work through what I think about all these things, how I process emotions, how I process really anything in my life. I'm terrible at processing trauma. I'm terrible at processing emotions. I'm really fucking bad at it. I'm fucking bad at it. But I think it's important to make these distinctions, to make these definitions known to everyone, so that they're working with, actually accurate information. Because I personally wasn't working with accurate information, and now that I have more accurate information, I feel more comfortable in dispensing information, in trying to navigate this, I don't know, series of sociosphere, this series of just mind spaces, all that shit. And yeah, so just give me your ideas about that. If you think that I'm wrong, totally go for it. If you think that I'm right, if you have more things to say about it, I'm totally game. I just think it's interesting. It's interesting, and it's difficult to understand completely, especially when there's things that you don't feel. But yeah, shoot me some comments.